See me and Brandiss? Good.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, hello everybody for a WOCAN June Speaker Series. I am Ashley Cavazos. I'm so excited to be here. I feel like I have been waiting for this speaker series for quite some time. So excited to feature Brandiss Drummer, COO of NCM Associates. And if this is your first time joining WOCAN, I just want to give y'all a quick rundown of who we are. But we are a nonprofit. We are about to celebrate 6 years serving the automotive community. Our goal is to attract, retain, promote more women of color to the automotive industry. If you are familiar with a lot of women in here, we're about 22% of the industry. When you look at women of color, we're about 6%. And so we really truly believe if you can see her, you can be her. And it's all thanks to our amazing sponsors that make this possible for us to serve back to our community and bring events like this to y'all. Any which way you can be here, as I mentioned, if you're driving, if you're making dinner at home, if you're with the kids, we want you to tune in and just listen in. And if you want to interact with us, the chat is always a great way to do that. Please throw any questions you have in there. But with that said, I do want to just kick us off. Say hi in the chat, say where you're chatting in from, who you are, and we're gonna roll into this. I'm so excited to introduce Brandiss Drummer to the WOCAN Speaker Series. When I started at NCM back in October, for months, even before NCM was even a conversation, and I was transitioning to this new leadership position at WOCAN as president. And people were like, "Do you know Brandiss? You should know Brandiss. Like, have you ever met Brandiss?" I'm like, "No." I'm like, "Tell me more." And as I got to learn about Brandiss, and then I met Brandiss like literally my first few days at NCM, I was just like, how have we not met before? Because I am totally inspired and I'm so excited to meet somebody who is leading the charge at a company like NCM, which a lot of us know so well of, and now I'm fortunate to be a part of. So just to give you a quick rundown of Brandiss, she is the Chief Operating Officer at NCM Associates, overseeing the daily business operations while collaborating with department heads and supervisors to support employees' day-to-day activities. She believes that people are the most important aspect of any business, and trust me, you feel that when you talk to her. And in order to have a successful and growing company or career, you must ensure that you and your team are growing professionally, and that is apparent. Brandiss started her career at NCM 15 years ago, initially serving through the Institute. Over the years, she has advanced to vice president, senior vice president roles before being named chief operating officer. Throughout her tenure, she has gained experience across nearly every facet of the organization, including sales, admin, and operations management. And it's true. If you talk to Brandiss, I feel like she knows everything about every role in every department of NCM. In addition to her executive leadership at NCM, Brandiss has served on NCM's board of directors, a current member of Women of Influence (KBCJ), and remains actively involved in supporting local organizations and community initiatives. So, with that, welcome, Brandiss.
Thank
Hello.
you. Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. And thank you everybody for being here. I know it's probably after hours for everybody, so I really appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you. And thank you. I will tell y'all, trying to with all of the things going on in Brandiss's world and being mom and wife and COO, I'm really grateful we were able to find some time for you to be here tonight. So I really want to just kick this off and go straight into learning a little bit about you and your journey. So I want to start this off, Brandiss, with like when you were younger, what did you think you were going to be? Where did it start for you?
Oh my gosh. So, first of all, I will say, just so everybody knows, I said this before people got on. It's so interesting. We as women sometimes have a hard time talking about ourselves. So I was telling her as I was prepping for this, I'm like, okay, I can do the industry talks, I can do the company talks, but when it comes to, talking about your career and your journey, it can be, it's, you feel a little more vulnerable. So I'm looking forward to sharing with you guys today a little bit about my history. But so I actually started off wanting to be a dermatologist, which I know is totally on brand with what I'm doing right now, right? Everybody can see the connection. But my father is a physician, and so I sort of saw his career in his business and thought, I want to be something like that. Not exactly what he's doing, but a dermatologist. And some of the reasons for that have actually carried over to today, which is the reason why I chose dermatology or wanted to go into dermatology originally was that people tend to think that that specialty is very superficial and very like, oh, it's cosmetic or how people look. And one of the things that really intrigued me about it is that skin is the only organ that you can actually see when it's ill. So this idea of people sort of trivialize skin and like, oh, it's skincare, it's this, it's that. But I was really interested in the impact that it has on people of wearing their health, their illness on their face. People can see it on their skin. And so that was one of the reasons I was interested in it. And well, I'm sure we'll get into why I sort of pivoted from that. But one of the things that I took from that early interest is always being interested in what's beneath the surface and being very interested in things that people typically tend to broad brush or trivialize and really getting more nuance and understanding of what impacts people and what drives them.
Wow, it's just to give you a little tidbit on the chat. Ashley has said you have the best skin in the game, and that totally makes sense. And Erica Bruno's like, I was curious about your skin routine before, but now this totally makes so much sense. Um, but I love that. I mean, getting, underneath the surface and understanding people. I've never thought of like skin is the only organ that you can truly see what's going on with you.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And very life impacting for people who maybe don't have good skin or have rashes and like things that they present with that people can see. So I was intrigued by it.
That is very interesting. Okay, so you thought you were going to be a dermatologist. So you kind of maybe saw yourself in some type of a leadership role. Did you ever see yourself like really, being where you are today?
Definitely not where I am today. But I will say I did see myself in some facet of a leadership role as far as I could understand it at that age. So I kind of chuckle at this question because if you ask my sister, I always wanted to play teacher growing up. I would force her to like learn these subjects that I was learning and like, you're going to do homework and I'm the teacher. She's like, you were always the teacher. So I knew that I liked to impart knowledge. But obviously at that age, I didn't really understand what leadership really was, which it's much more than just imparting knowledge. It's about mentoring people. It's about getting people to buy into a vision. It's about having a vision. And so, did I know that I could do all those aspects? No, but I knew that I did like to, certainly say, hey, this is what you need to learn, and here's your homework, and this is what's happening. So,
I want to steer the ship.
somewhat.
I'm the driver, right? I'm the
Yeah,
one driving.
exactly. She's like, oh, yeah, you always were.
That is so funny. Oh gosh, it's interesting when you think about that as kids. Like, how many of us did we, play school and we were like, "I'm going to be teacher." We fight over that. So okay, playing teacher, thinking you were going to be, maybe a dermatologist. Like, what was the moment that maybe that pivoted for you that you realized like, this is maybe a path I want to be on and I want to stay on and see what's there.
Yeah. So I should say my whole life, I thought I was going to be a dermatologist. I mean, you could have asked me at probably age 7, 6. I don't even know that I could like pronounce dermatologist, but I knew that that was what I wanted to do all the way up through college. Like I went to the college I went to because I was pre-med and they had a great pre-med program. I studied pre-med. I mean, it was a foregone conclusion for me, for my family, for everyone that this is what I was going to do. And I won't say there was really a moment. Sometimes when we talk about careers or trajectories, we always talk about this like there was a moment, there was a big aha, or there was a fork in the road. I think one of the things I want to normalize for people is sometimes it's not a big moment. It's not a like I had to choose left or right and I went right. And that's sometimes it's steady. You know, every day you're making choices or you're learning things and you realize something kind of along the way. But for me, it was, you know, when I got to college, the game changed on me, is what I would say. So my whole life, I grew up sort of doing really well at school, like knowing that, you know, I had a great GPA. I skipped a grade, so I was always younger, graduated at 16. Like it was sort of a foregone conclusion that, okay, like you can be a doctor. You're a smart kid. You know, you can do this, you can do that. And when I got to college, I really struggled with school, like really struggled. I had a hard time being in classes. I had a hard time. A lot of the grades at Duke, which is where I went, were based on participation, attendance. And I really did not like sitting in the classroom. And as I sort of later reflected on my whole life, it had always been that way. I just didn't realize it. Like I would, when I was in elementary school, we had a gifted program, and you could go to that and kind of get out of the normal school. You could go
Hmm.
there and you could like build bridges or do, you know, special creative things. And I would always con the program director of, I'm going to stay here and do some of this stuff. I don't need to go back in the classroom. They'd be like, yeah, no, you're good. And then when I was in high school, our secretary was the cheerleading coach, and I was on the cheerleading team. And I'm like, yeah, I got to work on these competitive dances. And, you know, you're the secretary of school. Like, I'm not going to be in math class. So just, you know, tell them I'm not going to be there. I'm going to work on this. And it was
I'll do
fine.
the homework, but I'm not going to
Yeah,
be there.
like it's fine. And it worked for me because I could show up to class and take the test and do well on the test. And so no one really noticed or said, what's going on? Like she never wants to be in class. I was always, I could pass. I could take a test and I could pass. But when I got to Duke, it didn't matter that you could take a test and pass. Like you had to be in class to participate. And what I learned is that for me, school, and this ends up translating to NCM, that lecture style of someone lecturing at you and you sitting there, not only did it not work for me, it was mentally taxing for me. Like I found it was affecting my mental health. It was affecting um, just me as a person. And I realized that in order to be a dermatologist, I was going to spend the next possibly 8 years in school, in a traditional school setting where you memorize things and you sit in a lecture and that just didn't align with what made me happy. And I could probably have done it. I could have suffered through it, but I realized I don't want to suffer through it. And I want to do something that really drives me and I want to learn more about. There's different ways to educate people, which ended up playing into my passion at NCM. And there's ways to be different in terms of adult learners and intriguing people. And so, yeah, it was a quarter life crisis, I will call it, of realizing the thing you want to do and you've always wanted to do isn't the path for you. But it was a series of moments at Duke that I realized I don't think this is it for me. And I
Mm.
didn't have an alternative plan or what was it for me, but I knew this wasn't it.
Now, did you grow up in Kansas City and then you went to Duke? So you moved across the country for school on
Yeah,
top of all of that?
I did. Yeah. So I grew up in Kansas City. And again, I graduated early. So I graduated at 16 and went to Duke, kind of on my own and figuring out. Like I remember everybody, I barely could drive at the time. I would just gotten my permit or my final license for 16. So being away from home was really good for me. It was liberating, but it was also like I still was a child in some ways and still maturing academically okay, but emotionally fit, you know, just maturing. So that also, yeah, played a role.
Interesting. Okay, so it's it's funny because I think about that. Like you're talking and I'm like, oh my gosh, like that was me. I was pre-med. I wanted to be a pediatrician my whole life. And then I got to school and I realized I was in bio and chem my freshman year. And I'm like, I hate science. This is not it for me. And so it's always so fascinating to me when I like talk to, people and women. And I'm like, so what were you thinking when you were younger? What did you want to be? Or did it kind of like the realization hit of like, oh, this is maybe not it? So when you think back on this journey and growing up and on top of, you're trying to figure out who you are, what you're wanting to do, we're women of color. Um, was there somebody who really believed in you before like you believed in yourself and like what, like, hey, it's okay to like make mistakes. It's okay to keep going on this journey and figure out who you are. Like how did you look at your like what was your support system through that? Because that's
Yeah.
sometimes a lot of pressure, especially when I think especially when we are women of color and we have this pressure to like be better and work harder. And um who did you lean on in that sense?
I will say definitely my dad. Um, from the time I can remember, my dad has always been such a proponent of me. Um, and he always goes around, even to this day, he goes around, he verbally tells people like, oh, Brandiss, she's one of the smartest people I know. She can do this, she can do that. And it used to annoy me. I used to be like, oh my God, why is he going around telling people this? Um, but I actually learned something about that from a leadership perspective of that, like verbalizing your belief in someone, actually saying the words, I believe in this person, or this person's super smart, or this person has this skill set. Um, it matters. Like it gets in people. And I felt like hearing that, it's like affirmations, the act of saying the thing actually gets into your mind track. And so hearing him say, "Oh, she can do anything." And he always told me, by the way, he was a physician as I mentioned. He did not care whatsoever if I went into medical. Like the pressure, I wanted to do that because I saw it, but he never once was like, "Oh yeah, you need to do this or you need to follow my footsteps." He always told me, "Brandiss, you can do absolutely anything you want to do, and I don't care what it is. If it makes you happy, that's what I want you to do." So that confidence coming from my dad really, really helped shape me a lot, and helped me in the tough times as I was pivoting to know no matter what, he was going to be proud of me.
Mm, I love that. So how did NCM come about? Where, you're at Duke realizing I don't want to go into being a dermatologist. Like how did that journey lead you to
Yeah. So again, this is where I emphasize for people, there's not like one big moment. So at the time that I kind of finally arrived over time that maybe this school thing is not for me, um, I decided to take a gap year. So even at that point, I had not made a definitive decision of I'm not going to pursue medical. It was not right now. I'm going to explore this, whatever this is that I'm learning about myself. And so came home and decided I wanted to work a little bit more in the medical field, which I did. I got some internships in medical. And I also wanted to explore what else there is out there. So came back to Kansas City, did a little bit of work in a variety of roles. And then that sort of made me arrive at, yeah, it's not medical, but what is it? Like, I have no idea. And so at the time I worked with a temp agency because all I wanted to do was explore. I've never thought about anything else. What else is out there? And the temp agency that I worked with contracts with NCM, and they were like, "Well, you should try this role," which was a entry level coordinator role, actually on the 20 group side. So it was meeting planning and meeting facilitation, and they put it in front of me. I'm like, "No, I don't know anything about meeting planning. I don't know." And they're like, "Well, just it's a great company to get into. It's automotive." I'm like, "No, I don't know anything about automotive. Like, I don't know anything about meeting planning. I don't know anything about automotive. This doesn't make any sense." They're like, "We'll just try it." Um, and so then I ended up interviewing with one of the managers there, really liked her and felt a bond with her, and was like, "Okay, I'll take a chance." At that time, fully thinking this is just to explore. Like I never saw myself having the career that I've had here or staying long term, which is another piece of advice I would give of like open yourselves up to even things that you're like, I'm just going to try this because you never know where that door is going to lead. So that's how by chance NCM came about by chance.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like you and I need to like deep dive this a little bit because there's a little commonalities in our careers.
Okay.
Um, okay, so you're at NCM, you're on this path, you're a meeting coordinator. Now, it's we talk a lot of times about our careers and sometimes it's a jungle gym. Sometimes you're not meant to stay in the same place, right? But you did 15, like you've been at NCM for 15 years.
Yes.
So I'm really, I think a lot of us are so curious to know like what was that path like? You started as a meeting coordinator, 15 years and now you're COO.
Yeah. So I could not be more thankful for the path that I've had because I feel like it has laid the foundation for me to be in the role that I'm in now. Yes, I started on the 20 group side and I was there about 2 weeks and met the CEO, who is still our CEO, Paul Folletti. And he met every new person just to like introduce himself, talk about the company vision, et cetera. And I remember being so nervous walking in his office and meeting with him. And I'm like, hello, Mr. Folletti. I was like formal. And he had my resume. And I remember him asking, like, okay, I see Duke, I see pre-med, I see all this stuff. I'm not like, help tell me your story. And I had the opportunity to talk to him a bit about what I've shared with you all. And um, again, I believe in, opportunity arises if you take a chance. And so about a week later, they were just opening up the Institute, which is our educational arm. It was not a division at that time. It didn't have any dedicated personnel. It was a brand new division for NCM. And again, I had been there at that point 3 weeks at NCM total. And he is the first one who gave me an opportunity and said, you can you help us start this division? And it was not in a leadership role, to be clear. It was as a coordinator on the Institute side. But I will never forget that he took that chance on me and that he saw something in that interview to give me an opportunity, even though it was, again, lateral move, but to say, hey, this is something new. Would you be interested in this? And so that's what happened. I moved over to the Institute and completely fell in love. One, because connecting back to what I said earlier, my passion for education about, there's so many people in auto that have not had a traditional education experience. And I really feel passionate about ways to educate adult learners, especially those that are experiential, they're hands-on, they learn, as going. So I had passion about that. But then also I got the opportunity because I was the first dedicated personnel to learn everything. I was answering the phone, I was making sales calls, I was putting out lunch, I was greeting students, I was running financial data. I was learning it all. And that time is what shaped me and propelled me in the other positions that I got. I think I've had maybe 8 positions at NCM in those 15 years. But every time, what has propelled me is having that deep understanding of how it all works. Because without it, you make decisions. Absolutely, Erica. You make decisions so much better understanding about when I make this decision, it impacts this person, it impacts this team, and people tend to respect you more and you have more credibility when you're able to say, yep, I know it's going to impact you this way. And I've already thought about that. And here's what we're going to do to help make sure that this is successful. So I give a lot of credit to Paul and also that opportunity to start at the ground level and understand how everything has worked.
That's so fascinating. Like being able, I can only imagine. And for a lot of people on the call who are not super familiar with NCM, right? NCM is really like the founder of 20 groups. So that's what I think a lot of people know, the 20 groups. So you see your, dealer composites in the dealerships, that white spiral book. But there's also the Institute in Kansas City where um, people come in from all over the country in Canada to learn about different roles and different workshops. And so I don't think a lot of people realize about that part of NCM and the Institute and the classes that are offered. But I can only imagine, seeing that, just personally being able to see that today, what that was like starting way back when. So you've been on this journey, you are on this path to leadership. What's one of the hardest lessons you've learned about leadership along the way? Like, is there something that you can remember that you're like, ooh, that hurt, and I, may not do that again?
Yeah. Yeah, I had a really painful lesson actually not too long ago. In the last, I'd say 5 years or so. And we had a bunch of initiatives and things we were trying to achieve. And I was leading a team at the time, a different team. And I remember we were not hitting our goals. And I remember being so frustrated. And I was talking to one of my mentors, and I'm like, gosh, we're not doing this, we're not doing that. The team, um, they're not getting this thing, and we're gonna miss it. And she paused me and she said, let me ask you something. Are you upset because they're not living up to their potential, or are you upset because you're not going to win? Like, meaning achieve this goal or hit this. Um, and it really paused me because I am very outcome oriented. I want to win, and I want our team, not me personally, but I want our company to win. And what that really opened up for me is that a part of being a leader is sometimes allowing the failure, because it's not always about us winning and hitting a goal. It's about growing your people. And sometimes, just like I've had plenty of failures in my career, sometimes you have to let your team have the failure because it is better for them and better for the company in the long run. And it's very easy for me to get so focused in that sort of achievement of, we got to hit this, guys, we got to this, and not slow down to say the failure's just as important and it's just as valuable for the team. So that was really a big eye opener for me that I've sat with for a while, and always have to remind myself of in the day to day.
It's okay for the team to fail because they might grow from that failure, which might make them stronger, right?
Yes.
Um, a lot of times when we are in our roles, I think imposter syndrome is very apparent for a lot of us. I know we've talked about this as we've talked through how we want to get more involved with NCM and women's initiatives. So I'm curious if there was ever a time you questioned like whether you belonged at the table, or maybe you didn't feel like you fit at the table.
100%. Yes. And I probably felt this the most when I joined NCM's board, because I remember that first meeting and they were talking about investments the company was making and mergers and acquisitions and all these things that I really had no exposure to. And I kept thinking, like, I don't think I should be here. I was so quiet, I couldn't contribute anything. I didn't even understand half the words they were saying. And I'd write it down. I ever look that up later. Like, I don't know what that is. But I would say a couple of things to that. One is, if you're comfortable at every table that you're at, you're not pushing yourself hard enough, because you should be at tables where you show up and you go, oh no, should I be here? Like, that's the right amount of push for yourself to grow. So I think that's super important. The other thing I would say is Obama did this. There was a clip I saw on social media, and you guys should find it and look it up. But someone asked him sort of a similar question, like, have you ever felt like you don't belong at the table? And he was talking about an experience that he had where, he showed up and there were all these world leaders and diplomats and super smart people at the table. And he felt like I shouldn't be here. And then he said, after a while, people started talking and you're like, oh, yeah, maybe these people, maybe they don't actually know everything. So sometimes the tables can seem intimidating, but people don't know everything. And you can kind of see as you get to know people and you get to these really intimidating tables and you start learning the people and you start hearing what they're saying, you're like, oh, I don't really know. Are they supposed to? Should they be at this table, or maybe they shouldn't be at the table? So I would just say, lean into. There's a reason you're there, and thank you. Someone found the clip. There's a reason you're there, and if nothing else, one of the things that we do really well as women is we are connectors. And that's something that I tend to lean in on when I arrive at a table and I'm like, oh, I don't know, is I don't have to be the expert. I actually don't even have to bring expertise at all. But what I can do really well is know that, okay, Bill is the expert in this, and Bob is the expert in this, and Shannon is the expert in this, but they're all focused on their own area of expertise. And I can say, oh, wait a minute. I remember Bill saying this last meeting, and Shannon, you said something. I don't quite understand it all, but like those two things, how does that connect to what Bill said? And how's that going to drive us forward? And how does so and so said this 2 meetings ago? How does that impact this ESOP thing that we're talking about? So building women leaning into being those connectors and helping people connect their areas of expertise to move us forward is one way to sort of get over that initial field of like, you don't have to necessarily bring expertise, but what you can do is help connect it in a way that creates that synergy, which is a unique skill that we tend to have as women.
I love that. I think sometimes we do think we have to have the answer, right? We always have to have the answer. And it's really just, I don't know the answer, but I know the right person you should talk to. Let's bring them in to that
Yes,
conversation. Um, it's something that like floats around, I think, with a lot of us, but I don't think I've ever heard it put so perfectly together into how we should how we should do that because it is intimidating. I mean, there's times, um, and thinking about like we talk about this at WOCAN, a lot of us didn't grow up with a lot of financial literacy, and then being in automotive and you're sitting around with a bunch of guys and they're talking about their investments and they're talking about what they're doing to build their financial wealth and you're like, I'm over here just saving my money off in my savings account or putting it in my mattress like my parents did, right? And so it is intimidating sometimes to be in that room and in that conversation. What's something you have had to unlearn as you've stepped into executive leadership? Like there's you started at the bottom really growing your way through, so I think there's been a lot of probably journey and I'm sure a lot of stories you can share, but is there anything you felt that you've had to unlearn as you've grown into these leadership roles?
definitely. The biggest thing is the thing that we reward people for when we promote them into leadership is the really good individual contributors. So, when I first started off, the way that I made my mark on NCM was being hands-on, doing the work, like putting the work time in, showing what I could do. And then the biggest, trick in life is that we take those people who are the best individual contributors, they are great hands-on, and we say, you know what, you're so good, you should lead a team. And it is the exact opposite skill set that you need to lead a team. Because leading a team, as I said earlier, is all about not being the one hands on. It's about being able to multiply your effect and getting other people to rise to where you were. When someone identifies you for leadership, they're saying, God, you're really good. I'll make this up, salesperson. I want you to bring the rest of the team up to your level. And the skill set you have to employ to do that is totally different than the one you had being the best salesperson. So I think that's one of the things I would say. And every level you climb, that impact sort of multiplies of you need to be less hands-on and more about multiplying your impact and multiplying your scale. And that's something I still struggle with very much so every day because I can see like we need to do this, I know exactly what we need to do. I know exactly how to do it. And I can see maybe this person doesn't. And it's an everyday struggle, but it is something that when you think about, what am I really here for? Why does my role exist? It isn't for me to be an individual. It is for me to multiply my impact and get people to rise to where we need them to be. And so I try to remind myself, if you want to do a good job at your role, your outcome is you're building sustainable systems that don't revolve around you having to do the work.
It's so interesting. I feel like we're going to need like a Brandiss book and Brandiss-isms as we go through and we learn more about you. So one thing I know you're a big component of, and I think it's really interesting to talk to this group about is um, the ESOP community, right? And what NCM is really building with that. Do you want to share a little bit about what like an ESOP is for those who may not know and why you're so passionate about it?
Yeah, so ESOP stands for Employee Stock Ownership Plan. And we are a 100% ESOP, meaning that our company, our stock is owned by our employees 100%. And that translates into, you guys make me laugh with these chats. That translates into everyone has equity, which I think is a super important conversation, especially for women of color, to talk about the importance of owning something and having that equity and wealth is very, very important. Actually, for women in general, women of color, I mean, any of those groups. Um, so that's what an employee stock ownership plan is. And so the way that it works is we have, just like any publicly traded company, we have shares. Those shares have a value. Every year it gets a new value, and those shares appreciate, and owners, which are all of our employees, get to reap the benefits of our company growing and those share prices growing. And for me, as I was mentioning, when I came into NCM, I didn't know anything about it, and I didn't really understand it, and I was younger and was like, I don't really care. It's a retirement benefit. So I'm like, it's a retirement benefit. I don't know. I don't know what that means, but cool. And as my understanding grew over time about what it means, that ownership piece, that equity piece, the importance of it, and how it builds wealth, um, it was super important to me. And one thing I didn't mention earlier about my dad is that he is first generation college student, obviously first generation medical school student, but he came from nothing. Like, we came from nothing. And thankfully, I had the benefit of him being a physician, but we haven't had wealth in our family. We didn't have wealth passed down. We didn't have ownership or equity. When his mom died, my grandmother, and actually on both sides of my family, my mom and my dad, there was nothing to be passed down. I mean, they didn't own anything. In fact, what they passed down was debt. And so the importance to me, thankfully, I've been fortunate. I grew up in having some things with my father and mom, but that paying forward to my daughter and understanding the importance of equity and ownership and that financial asset is super important.
I love that. I mean, I think it's very apparent. We just had our company summit and we spent a day at the sports park in KC, and I feel like most of that day was ESOP and really educating the team on it. And I got a lot of education on it as well, which was really fascinating, which I think also speaks to the culture you create as well when you have everybody working together to help each other succeed, right? So,
I'll add one thing to that. We had, for our first time ever this year, we had a top 10 shareholders dinner. And it was like, who has the most shares in the company? And it was so inspiring to me and rewarding. I actually didn't know who the top 10 shareholders were, because we don't share that with our broadly with our leadership team. Generally, it's something the board sees and our CEO, but not us. But we decided to this year. And I'm probably going to get the number wrong, but I know it was the majority. It was 6 or 7 of the 10 were women. And of that, many of them were not in leadership, like not executive leaders, not even managers, just people who have invested their time, their tenure, their work into NCM, and they are now a top 10 shareholder in this company. And I think that that is what it's about. Like giving people who, you don't have to be this super wealthy in this high position. It's about like we are redistributing wealth and making sure that we are rewarding that loyalty and that effort and that work for people who may have never had that opportunity. So it was very, very inspiring to see that as the top 10.
Can imagine to just be a fly on the wall and hear the stories and no, I mean to be a top 10 shareholder, NCM's been around 1947. Did
You
I get
got
that
it.
right?
You got it.
So I can imagine there's a lot of tenure in the company, which is incredible to just kind of think about, that there's a majority women and they're not in these leadership roles, which you would imagine is what you would find if you thought about the top 10 shareholders in most other companies. So let's break it down a little bit. Let's get a little bit personal here. Your COO, your wife, your mom, how have those roles shaped one another? I know you were just talking about like your daughter, you're like, mom's gonna be on a call, and she's like, okay, you can't come in. Sure, keep saying that. But how has that shaped you? I mean, I feel like if you've been at NCM for 15 years and from our conversations, you've really grown in this role, right? Like you've grown as a woman, as a wife, as a mom while growing in your career.
Yeah, 100%. When I started at NCM, I did not have a husband and I did not have a child. So I grew into those roles while I was also building my career, which has been, super special to be at the same company and that company sort of see you grow and you growing with the company and growing in your life. But it definitely has shaped me. But one of the things that I always tell people is I try to lead one life, like because it is one life at the end of the day. An integrated life. So I am all those things. I'm also a sister and a daughter and a friend. But I'm still one person and it's one life. So, people always talk about this concept of who I am at work and then I turn that off and I go do this thing. For me, it's it's a blended life. And so I try to be pretty authentic within those lanes, if you will, and show up as the same person. Um, but I also try to think of it as I'm not turning one thing off and turning on another. Like that context switching for me would be too much. It's yeah, when I'm on vacation and if I get an email from work that I really care about, I'm going to take that email because I don't shut off completely from anything. I'm still that thing. But opposite, if I'm at work and my daughter needs me, I'm a mom. Like I'm all of the above, and I'm not one thing at one given time. So I would say yes, those things shaped me, but I try to stay pretty true to being all of those things at once, as much as I can. And so yeah, that's what I would say.
That's a it's we always hear like work-life balance, live to work to live, right? And we're constantly chasing that, like I have to be all the things to everybody. I appreciate that perspective because it is true, and I think it takes um, a good support system, a good family to also understand, right, both ways. Like finding um, a company that is fortunate to recognize, like, hey, I am a mom, I am a wife. There are times that that's gonna call me, but also having a family that understands, like, this is what I do to, there's just going to be times where it's going to blend in together. And I think that's a really interesting perspective because we are just taught for so long. Nope, you shut it off. You get home, no work talk, you're focused on home. And that is really tough to juggle mentally. It can be really draining if you are trying to do that. So, you are each one of those made you who you are, and that's why people love you, why they appreciate you. Um, so has being a parent changed? Like your daughter, is she 7? Is that
Six.
right?
Just turned
6.
six. Yeah.
I'm not making her older than she needs to be.
Yeah, I'm like, nope, six. Just not even 6.5.
So now, being a mom and having a daughter on top of that, I mean, what is that like to, as you think about, her and being a parent, has that changed how you lead people? Has that changed a little bit of perspective?
Yeah, 100%. In a lot of different ways. So one is she definitely has taught me patience. And people like to use the analogy of how you are with your kids and your employees. I know some employees don't appreciate that when we use analogy, but there are a lot of similarities. And one of it is, when you have a kid, you want the very best for them. And sometimes that means helping them be accountable. Like, all right, we are going to clean up this room today, though. I know you don't want to. I know you want to cry, but this is what's best for you because I'm teaching you the importance of whatever, honoring your commitments or what. So sometimes you want for them more than they may want for themselves in that moment because you know what they're capable of and even if there's conflict, even if they're upset, you are doing the right thing by I'm not here to be your friend, I'm here to help you be the best. And that analogy is the same with leadership, right? Like I'm going to have a tough conversation with you or I'm going to push you to do more because I care about you. And even if you're mad at me, even if it makes you mad at me, I'm willing to be the bad guy because I want what's best for you. And so that parallel, I think, has become even sharper being a parent. I also think, like I said, patience, she's taught me about. But one of the things that I really learned is about things are a moving target. So I remember when she was very young and something happened. I can't remember what it was. I thought she was, I don't know, she was sick maybe, or something was going on. And I was so super stressed out and trying to mitigate this one thing, and then all of a sudden that thing was fine. It was gone. And then there was another thing, and it was like, oh, maybe is she not developing right? And I don't know. Now I was all concerned about this thing, and then there was another thing. So there's always a thing. It's a moving target. It's the same with at work and in leadership. You're never going to have a time where you look around and you're like, oh, everybody's doing good. The team's doing good. All the initiatives are doing well. Like it's a moving target, and the quicker you get comfortable with that's like this thing is temporary. Don't get all caught up into, oh my god, the world's ending, this person, this thing, because it's gonna, guess what, that thing's gonna go away and you're gonna have forgotten about that and there's gonna be another thing. And that's really what I learned is that's the pace of business, that's the pace of life. There's always a thing. Don't get so consumed by it because it's a moving target. So that's what I would say.
Mm, I love that. Okay, so I want to be cognizant of time. I'm going to ask one more question, and then we're going to open it up to the audience. And it kind of ties into what you just mentioned, like, when you're talking with your daughter and how you lead. And I think a lot of times as women of color, we are trying to hold people accountable. And sometimes it's perceived as like aggressive, like we have to be so nice. And so like I'm just curious, how do you balance that? Because I will tell you, being on the other side of you, I don't ever like, I know when Brandiss is talking she means business and we have to deliver on what Brandiss wants to deliver, but I'm also not thinking like, god, like she's so aggressive, like you have a way of conveying that. But I'm just kind of curious, like, I mean, we are a majority. There are, like, although there's a lot of women, there are also a lot of men, and you're working with these moderators. And how do you balance accountability with empathy? And how do you do that in a way that gets across to them to where, we're not being subjected to like because of who we are?
I love that. And I'm going to try to talk quick, but I have a whole soapbox about this. So you're going to have to be like, be quiet. Um, okay. So, first and foremost, I will say I have been told in my career, definitely those words like, you are aggressive, you talk too much with your hands, like all this kind of stereotypes you've heard. I'm not going to lie and say that I haven't heard them. Or like, oh, you're aggressive, you're direct, you're and I remember when I would first get that feedback, I remember really taking it personally because I know how much I care, and I know, like, yeah, I am pretty direct, but I did wonder, would this be the same if I was a male? Would this be the same if I wasn't a woman of color? Um, don't know the answer to that. But one of the things that has been really important for me, in especially as I've processed that feedback over the years, which I think is still important to hear because you do want to know how you're perceived, whether you agree with it or not. Part of being a leader is understanding if this is the perception, it's the reality, and how do I overcome that? But one of the things that I have really leaned into learning about myself and reflecting about myself is I think empathy and accountability are two sides of the same coin. And that coin is caring. Because when you hold people accountable, you are telling them, I believe in you. I think you're better than what you're currently performing. Or you gave me a commitment, and I believe you're a person who wants to honor your commitment. And I'm going to tell you, you made this commitment, you didn't honor it. How do we get there? And if I don't give you that feedback, if I'm not leaning into the uncomfortable, then that means I don't care. Like, I'm not trying to make you a better person. I'm not trying to grow you. So for me, whenever I pause, because it does give me pause, like, I'm going to be real with you guys. Whenever in your career, if you ever get feedback of like, oh, you're too aggressive, you should direct, it does make you, especially when you care about people, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't say anything. But I always go back to being authentic, and who I am authentically is I believe in people, and I believe that they can do more, and I believe that they are capable of more. And I am never going to give up on someone that is on my team. I'm going to push you for more because you deserve more and you can do more. And as long as that is my intent, and that's the reason I'm doing it, not to micromanage, not to be mean, but because I really actually care about you and I think you can do more, then that's what I have to trust and believe in. And the empathy part is saying we're on the same team. So if you're not delivering on something, it's not because you're a bad person. It's how do we get on the same team to fight whatever the problem is? Is it organization? Is it you don't know how? You need training? Is it you're not in the right role? I don't care what the problem is. We're on the same team to address it together. It's not me against you of you're bad. It's we're together and we're going to fight whatever is holding you back. So that's the empathy part of it.
I feel like we need a mic drop there. Um, I feel like we're going to need like chapters of this because I don't know how many times I've been sat across in a dealership in any type of my role, and I have been told, "You're too aggressive. You're too mean. You need to be nicer. You need to smile."
Oh
Um,
God, I've gotten so much of that. You need to smile.
and so I love that insight because it's coming, you've experienced it. Okay, so I know we have a few minutes. I do want to open this up. Does anybody have any questions for Brandiss? We have a lot of great things going on in the chat. But if you have any questions, feel free to unmic or chat it in and we will throw it at her. We'll have time for maybe one or two questions. I think, are y'all being shy or did Brandiss really mic drop us?
I mean, I have a question. I always have questions.
Give it to us.
Hi, am I your favorite EA?
Oh, Jenny.
No, no. I don't like silence. But I am Brandis's EA. And a lot of what you said, obviously, I was just like, yes, this is exactly, what I've experienced working with you and for you. But one thing that I ask constantly is just myself is like, are you, do you feel proud, and like happy that you are able to have uh, this group here listening to you and just like the text message I got today was like how awesome it is that you get to learn from such an amazing person. And I'm just like, do you ever just sit and like reflect and realize like where you started and where you are now and just this influence and this shared experience that we all have with you, you know?
Brandiss proud of Brandiss.
I'm proud of the thing that matters to me the most is relationships. So I had a proud moment on this call, which was seeing so many of the NCM people on this call, the NCM women. That is what drives me and makes me proud. Like to have that support and to have built those relationships. It's not yes, like it's cool to do cool things in your career. It's cool to be a COO, whatever. But like women showed up for me here tonight, and that's what I'm proud of. That's what matters to me the most.
Yes, they did. They did show up and they're giving so much love. I think that speaks a lot to the leadership that you've created with NCM, Brandiss, Paul. I think that really starts from the top down um, for us and setting that example, which is really cool. And I think why I will tell y'all for anybody joining on that's on the WOCAN side or new, and this is your first WOCAN event. I think this is why we want to highlight. Oh, Sandy's got a question. Why we want to highlight somebody like Brandiss, because it really does start at the top down in the culture that you built and being able to share that with more people. So Sandy, go ahead.
Hey, everybody. It is not my first WOCAN event.
No, it's not. It is not.
I might have been, and I don't think we've ever met Brandiss, but I might have been one of those people that was like, Brandiss drummer, right? But nobody knew you yet, right? So I was super excited to see this. And I love everything that you said about accountability. And somebody once a long time ago said to me, say what you mean what you say, and don't be mean, right? And that kind of reminded me, I was reminded of that when listening to you talk about empathy and sharing with the people that you lead that I'm asking you for this because I think you can do it, right? And anyway, I just want to say thank you, and I'm really, really happy that I was here for a greater part of it.
Thank you.
So we're at the top of the hour. Thank you, Sandy. And Sandy, just so you know, she's ally number one for WOCAN. She has been a huge supporter of us. So it's always, I love, when we come together with WOCAN, and we can't do this alone. We need our men and women allies to help support each other, just kind of like what you talked about, the community that is within NCM. So with that, I just want to, if you have any final words, feel free to share them. And then I have one announcement, and we're going to let everybody get back to their evening and doing what they need to do on this WOCAN Wednesday. So any final words?
Final words is just thank you guys for being here. Ashley, thank you for everything that you're doing. So glad that you're a part of NCM, and thank you for leading this interview. And that's really it. I appreciate everybody.
Awesome. And stay tuned, ladies. If you're familiar with what we did at NCM and WOCAN a year ago that we announced the NADA, we, thanks to the team, Paul and Brandiss and the leadership at NCM, we gave Colby Sturdivant a GMEP scholarship. And that is there is more of that coming from NCM. And so I'm so excited and grateful that, not just with me being a part of the team, but they are like, what does WOCAN need? What more can we do? And so I just, want to make sure that we highlight, a lot of the team members that are here from NCM, but like being able to send one of our WOCAN members to GM school is a huge investment. And this is somebody who wants to own their own dealership one day. And so it's really cool to see that. And so, speaking of really cool things going on at WOCAN, I just want to quickly share with y'all. If y'all did not see, we do have our keynote speaker announced. So, I'm going to share my screen and make sure that y'all get to see who that is. If you don't know her, her name is Vivian, your rich BFF. And she will be at the NAMAD event. We are going to put the link in the chat if you want to check out the page. If not, check your email. We've got some great content coming over the next few weeks, and we would love to see you all at NAMAD at our 5th annual event. Come see Vivian speak, come connect with more women. There is just something really powerful about being together in a room of women. And Brandiss will be there, so you'll get to meet her in person if you haven't yet. But thank y'all everybody for joining tonight. Please, definitely reach out if you have any questions on NAMAD. We are here to help you, but we look forward to seeing everybody out there and have a great evening.
Thanks, everybody.